Okay, I have my monitor there. It's a big screen, so I hope it's decent. Okay, so let's start with a quiz. So we have two screenshots here. One is from a website, and the other is from a book. So which one do you think is from the website, and which one do you think is from a book? I give you like 5 seconds, and I should reveal the answer. So they are both from websites, sorry. But to be fair, like the layout is mostly the same between technical content websites and books. It's this classic like one column static layout, and it's like by far the most used layout for technical content. So I have here like a random sample of tutorials, blog posts, documentation, and they are like from different ecosystems. They are using like different technologies, explaining different concepts, and yet they all look mostly the same. They all use this static layout. And I'm not saying that this layout is bad, or books are bad, but I think like this layout is not always the best choice. So when I work on content websites, I try to follow two rules. The first one comes from a principle in architecture. You might have heard it is form follows function. I think it means that when you are designing a building, you start with the function of the building, what's that building for, and then you design the form, what it looks like, the shape, whatever. We could say something similar for content website, that presentation follows content. And this means that you start with the content, the thing you want to communicate, and from there, you design the presentation. So different content may benefit from different presentation. And the other rule I have is use the medium. Let's say you make I know, videos. You wouldn't emulate a book in a video. You will take advantage of the video format. And the same thing we could say about content websites. You want to take advantage of the features that the web has to offer. The web is a very powerful medium. So let's see some examples of this. So here I have a blog post. It's about SVG. And you can see like half the screen is the SVG, the output. And as a user, you can like explore the different concepts at your own pace and see how like different instructions affect the output in real time. And this one is another a blog post about CSS cascade. And it used an actual cascade to display the different levels of CSS. It's like applying literally the idea of presentation follows content. This one is the tutorial from Svelte, and it combines examples with explanations and even a playground where you can like test what you're learning. And this one is from Shopify. It's the API reference, and it has like for each endpoint you have like the requests, the different ways of making requests, different languages, the response, and even for each endpoint you have like examples you can click and show the request and response for that example within the documentation. This one is another one from Stripe. This is an example of how to build a checkout page. And it's a walkthrough that you can scroll step by step and see how this example works. This one is similar. It's from Apple. It's the Swift UI tutorials, which also you can scroll and go step by step and seeing the different steps of the tutorial. So this example, some of them are from companies like Stripe, Shopify, Apple. So these are companies that invest in this type of website, in great content websites, because they care about developer experience. And this is developer experience because the people reading this website are developers. So, and it is an investment because building these types of websites is harder than just going through to the default layout that we've seen before. But why is it harder? So let's try to find out exactly why is it hard. So let's try to build this tutorial from Swift UI. So you can see that we have several sections, and each section has different steps. So let's build a generic component for a section. Here I'm using React and TypeScript. So let's start at defining the props that this component will need. And in this case, we need a list of steps, and each step has a title. In this case, will be like step 1. This step also has children, which is all the content. It could be any Markdown content. Well, I'd say Markdown, but that comes later. But it could be any content there. And some steps have a screenshot. You can't see it because the code is over the screenshot, but some steps have a screenshot, and some steps have like a code block that you need to display. And don't worry about the image and code types. We'll talk about later. And once we have that, if you know about intersection observers and sticky positioning, this UI is not super hard to build. I mean, it's not trivial, but it's doable. So imagine we have that. I won't show the full code. If you're interested in the real code, I have a clone of this exact website on my GitHub. I can share it later. But yeah, let's say we have already the component to build this UI. So now we need the content. So we are going to use Markdown or MDX, which is basically the same thing here. And for the content, for example, for this particular section, we have like a title with the step, then some content. And in this step, we have a screenshot. This is for those you don't know, this is the syntax for images in Markdown. Then we have the step 2, similar to paragraph, and a code block. And step 3 is, again, some text and a code block. So we now have the content for at least for one section, and the component to display that section. But the problem is that this section needs the content in this specific shape, a list of steps with all these properties. And we don't have that. So, and this is, I think this is the real problem with this, like why it's hard to build this type of content websites. Not because building the UI is hard. I mean, sometimes it is, but we know how to build the UI. Come on, this is JSHeroes. The problem is how to pass the content to the component. So I've been working in this space like for the last 5-6 years. I built a couple of tools, and I maintain an open source library called CodeHike. And that library provides like some components to build a specific layout with specific Markdown. But the problem is it's not very flexible. If you need to change it slightly, you depend on CSS, and that's all you can do. So then I realized that the real problem I wanted to solve was this one, like giving Markdown like enough structure so we can then pass that structured content to components, to the UI, and render it in any way we want inside the component. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we give enough structure to Markdown without being too invasive, because we don't want to hurt the authoring experience of Markdown? And my approach for the next version of CodeHike is to add like little annotations to different nodes in Markdown, so we can then compile them into the structure we need. And it may look ugly at first, but you get used to it. So let's see how this works. So I will go fast. This isn't a full tutorial. If anyone is interested, I will share the link to the docs. Well, so first I need to talk to you about MDX. So MDX is something that runs at build time and compiles a file like this one into JSX. So basically, every node in Markdown becomes a JSX element. So you can see like the different JSX elements coming from the different nodes in Markdown. And then this is the output, the generated output. And then whenever we want to use this, we import the MDX file and use that component anywhere we want. So MDX has plugins. You might have heard about Remark, Rehype. Those are types of plugins. Well, CodeHike is a plugin for MDX. So what happens is when you run MDX with CodeHike, CodeHike will see this annotation and transform it into an object. And this is what I call a block. And it has a title, which is the rest of the header, and the children, which is anything that comes after that heading, until another block is found. So you can also have like lists of blocks. Here we have, instead of one exclamation mark, we have two that tells CodeHike that this should be a list of breakfasts. And you can also nest them. Like if you have a block that the header has a level deeper than the parent, like here recipe has a level 3, these 3, I don't know how to call this, hashes. And this one has 2. So in the output, we'll see the recipe block inside the first breakfast. And just with these 2 things, like listing and nesting, you can have very complex like content structures. Besides blocks, you can also like add an annotation to other nodes in Markdown. Like if you want a string, you put it in at the beginning of a paragraph. You can do it with images too, and with code blocks. In the code blocks, you get like the language, the meta string, which is this part, and the content of the code block. And you can also, if you want, you can also do the syntax highlighting on build time, and you will receive more stuff here. But let's keep it simple for now. And the other thing, like this is like the output you get from the MDX. But when you then use it in your component or in my component, you can define a schema. Like the schema is, how do you expect the content to look like, right? So here we have a schema that says that, well, I need an author, a cover image, and a block with a code block inside. And this helps in two ways. One is that we get autocompletion and all the editor tooling that comes with TypeScript. But the other is that we can use this to validate that the content follows the structure we want. For example, in this case, I have an optional image. If I delete it, it's OK. But if I delete, for example, this code block, which is required, CodeHive will tell us that, will show an error or tell us that this block, the Moria block, is missing a code block. And we can also parse, instead of using inside a component, we can also use it to parse an entire file and extract the content from that file. So in this case, we are importing the content here and giving it to a parse function that will give us the data, and we can use this anywhere. We are not limited to be inside a component now. Also, we have plain Markdown here. We don't have a JSX anymore. This could be a Markdown file instead of MDX. And this is really good because you basically are now using Markdown as a data source. You can use it for, let's say you have a blog, and you can add a block in each post with an excerpt, and then in your blog homepage, you extract that excerpt, that block, from all your posts and show them there. And in that excerpt, you can put any Markdown, anything. So I have here a little demo that we can, let's use what we just learned to make a little demo. And this is a Markdown with some of the speakers from this conference. And you can see it has the speaker name, the picture, some description, information about the talk. So let's say we want to build the JSHeroes website. So we start with the schema, saying that the content should have a list of speakers. Each speaker should have a picture, time, a talk. And then we can import this file and parse it. And now we have the speakers in our JavaScript. Here, I didn't even use React yet, right? We have the speakers as data in our JavaScript. And then with that, we can do anything we want. We can render it. We can render the speaker section with the picture and the speaker name. We can also build render the agenda with the time, the name of the talk. And if we add a lot of class names with Tailwind, we should have a website. Let me see if this works. You can see it's a very big screen. Okay, yeah. So this is the code, and this is the website. It looks similar to the original. Let's see if I can do some live coding here. I think I have. It's hard to do it. So such a big screen, it's hard to write. So this is dialog, trigger. Give me a second. What I'm doing is adding the pop-up here. When you click in any speaker, I don't know why the text is centered, but we see the information for each speaker. And I like how Bramus also has bold text and italics in his description. That's from the original data. I didn't touch anything there. So now the thing with the schema that I mentioned earlier, we can see maybe how all the types inside the data we extracted from the Markdown is all typed, and if I go to the Markdown and let's say we remove the picture from Eva, we should see an error telling me that the block of Eva Ferreira is missing the picture. And this is really cool because it's not. Sometimes the people writing the components are not the same people writing the content. So it's like a contract you have with the writer, let's say. If I add the back. And another cool thing here is that since we are using Markdown headers for the block, we have a lot of tooling for free. Like we can collapse the blocks. We can use the outline. If I do this, so we can use the outline to navigate. I think it even works with the breadcrumbs. Yeah. So we get all this tooling, which is nice. And well, that's the demo. So we still have time. So let me show you a couple of examples of the code block, because that's mostly for the structuring the content. But we can also use annotations inside of code blocks. So we can pass part of the code block to a custom component too. So in this example, we have this comment in the code that CodeHack interprets as an annotation. And this one says that this regex here will match this part of the next line and pass it to a custom component that the user of CodeHack provides. And in this case, that component renders this callout. And this is not part of CodeHack. That component is user defined. Of course, you can go to the implementation and copy paste it and customize it, right? But the good thing is that it's totally flexible. What else? We have more collapse. This one, instead of a regex, use a range of lines. Copy. I'm going fast. I'll share the URL later if you want to see it in more detail. This one, fold, I use this one a lot. So it has a more complex regex, and if you have a lot of examples with very long class names, I mean, if you use Tailwind, it's very useful because you hide the class name by default, and if you need to see it, you click and you have the class name. You can also use this to animate between code blocks. You can. Oh, this one is interesting, the tooltip. So here we have an element, a JSX element that has some blocks inside, like we've seen before. It has this block with this hello world and some content. And then we can use that content from inside the code block in a custom component, and for example, show a tooltip with the content of that block. I think the other one is a piece of code that you can use. And the good thing about this is not just the tooltip, but it's very flexible, and it's very useful for a lot of creative things. Instead of doing what everybody else is doing, you can do your own thing here. And this one from the TypeScript component is also really interesting, because here what's happening is that we have a code block with with TypeScript, and we are displaying some information about the TypeScript. Like after we compile it, we have like, I know, that this is an error, what error, and this comes from the TypeScript compiler. And what's happening is we have a component, and inside the component we are running TypeScript. We are passing the content of the code block to TypeScript, and then we are even like syntax highlighting stuff. And this is possible because when you are using a framework that supports React server components, this basically runs at build time. Here, server is the build server, right? So this happens and is resolved at build time. So it looks like expensive, but it's not, because it's happening at build time. It's happened once, and that's all. And this also means you can do a lot of things that previously weren't possible. I'm not talking about CodeHive, but React server components let you do this stuff. And well, I think that's most of the examples I have there. Let's go back to the slides. So I'm Rodrigo Pombo. I'm Pomber on the internet. That's my Twitter. CodeHive this version of CodeHive is currently in alpha. The beta version is coming really soon. Stable version the following weeks, and the final number of weeks. And well, to wrap up, next time you are building a content website, instead of defaulting to the same static layout, try to remember the 2 rules. Presentation follows content, and use the medium. And it may be harder than the other layout, but we have the tools, we have the talent. So JSHeroes, let's make the web better. Thank you.